Welcome to Infrastructure Frontiers, where automation experts run down all the AI news for infrastructure engineers. It's Monday, August 3rd, so grab a cup of coffee and let's get started. I'm Adam Jacob, the CEO of Swamp Club. I'm joined this week by my Swamp co-founders, Paul Stack.
Hello, how's it going?
And Nick Stinemates.
What's up?
Our special guest is Sean Escriva, infrastructure engineer extraordinaire. Say hello, Sean.
Hello, glad to be here.
All right, let's run down the news. Let's start with Dan Lorenc. So Dan posted to LinkedIn that they're phasing code review out at Chainguard and they're moving over to design doc review instead. So rather than actually looking at people's code, instead they've built a system where you basically submit your plans for what you want to build. Those plans get reviewed by the team. And then that becomes the thing that gets approved and then implemented with agents. And then no one actually reads the code on the way out the door. Paul, what do you think about Dan phasing out code review at Chainguard?
So I'm a big fan of getting rid of code reviews. We've got rid of them quite a while ago. We're incredibly happy with the outcome that we have. Plan reviews, not so sold on, to be totally honest with you. Plan is point in time, right? That's the thing. And that plan's going to change. Regardless of what the agent tells you what the plan is, there's going to be drifts. There's going to be changes in what it's doing. So it's going to be painful. You're going to have to read everybody in the context. I think it's actually just shifting the pain to another point, to be totally honest with you. And I don't know. I mean, fair play to them. I love that they're embracing a new way of doing it.
Yeah. I feel like we tried
quite fast. So.
I feel like we tried that early on at Swamp and it lasted maybe a week where we were trying to review each other's plans.
We were pretty judicious and we posted them onto GitHub issues and then we went, yeah, looks great. The same way as when you open the pull request, you went, yeah, looks great.
Same way we did with code reviews.
Yeah. So, I love that they're embracing it. And I love that they're trying to shift left, but I have a feeling that they'll follow through with something else pretty fast.
Yeah, I think they got 6 months till they stop doing that too. Let's talk about stacked PRs on GitHub. GitHub released stacked pull requests. I feel like I've worked with a bunch of engineers for the last couple of years who would have loved that it crawled over broken glass for stacked pull requests. I feel like at this point though, it's too little too late. At this point, I'm not doing code reviews and haven't for months and hope to never do them ever again. So why do I care if my PRs have been stacked appropriately or whatever? Sean, do you have a thought about stacked PRs on GitHub?
Yeah, I think it's too little too late. Same thing. I was one of those who would have loved it. I was judicious for years about the smallest possible pull request in a reasonable order and chaining them together. And I just don't think it matters anymore. So
it's kind of funny. The Git Butler people have been doing this for a while now. They've had stacked PRs in their product. Scott Chacon, one of the creators of it, implemented this pretty well. And he's tweeted a lot over the last couple of days about saying, if you like this implementation in GitHub, you should come and check out Git Butler. But it's really a case of, it's an interesting feature that people asked for 10 years ago.
Totally.
Yeah. And I'll just, pile on a little bit. They tweeted today something to the effect of, now that we've shipped stacked PRs, what should we ship next? And, my feedback, everyone's feedback is, how about we keep the fucking platform stable? How about we start with that? How about we don't...
Literal quote. Literal quote is exactly what it was.
He brings the guns.
How about you can't, set a watch to when there's going to be another outage this week,
Could we make GitHub Actions actually good?
Yeah, let's have GitHub Actions actually work. Totally.
I guess stacked PRs is easier. I don't know. So anyway.
All right, OpenAI reduced the price of 5.6 Luna by 80% and Terra by 20%. They wrote a blog post where they sort of run down the technology. They sort of allowed them to do that. What I think is interesting about this blog post and just this move is that there's this prevailing understanding amongst a certain cohort of people that what's going to happen is we're all going to get addicted to LLMs. We're all going to get addicted to these coding agents. We'll lose our ability to do any free thinking thought. And then they'll just spike the prices on us as if the whole thing's gone wrong. I think it's interesting that what's actually happening is pricing pressure is pushing it down. And I think there's arguments that people make about, well, they couldn't possibly be turning a profit or whatever. I suspect they probably are, certainly on the cost of individual inference. I mean, we'll know soon enough when they become public companies. But I think that combination of frontier intelligence, 5.6 Luna, is as good as the models that we saw changing our lives 6-8 months ago, and it's faster and it's cheaper. Keeb, you got thoughts?
Yeah, man. I think we're at the era of choosing the right model for the right task. I think there's going to be a lot of intelligence surrounding that at the routing layer up top. You kind of see that with some of the models today, and I think there's a real benefit to, what I read in that is not only the reduction in price, but the massive increase in tokens per second that you get on the outside. And, frontier intelligence costs a lot of wall time, and sometimes you don't need it for simple evaluations or something like that. And so, being able to encode that at the right layer, I think is the interesting part. And I can see immediately how we're going to take advantage of this.
Totally.
Yeah, and like there's a ton of people who are like token crazy. Like genuinely, they don't give a fuck. Like they're just spending tokens like an absolute lunacy. And then you have people who are really efficient. Like we're really efficient. Like we're incredibly efficient. Like for my $200 a month with Claude Code, I spent 11 billion tokens last month. Right. I'm okay if that price goes up because the productivity I got in that 11 billion tokens was actually pretty great. It's worth $7,000, still cheaper than an engineer, so even if it goes up a little bit, it's okay. But I think overall, there's a lot of like profit in inference at this moment. There's people buying Claude Max Pro plans that could probably get away with like a $20 a month plan. And they're like, that's profit. So I think the bubble isn't as big as people think at this moment in time with tokens.
I think I agree.
Paul, you wrote yourself a blog post about how best practices come and go, but architecture is forever. Give us the 10-second summary.
Like every month there's a new term of something you have to do in AI. Like it went vibes, it went spec engineering, it went agentic like loops, it went into graphs. Like graphs is a thing now. Like all of a sudden, as the OpenClaw dude said recently. The point of my article is that good engineering practices, good architecture, like will survive all of that. And if you're lean enough, you can keep changing the methodology that sits on top, but you still have those same guardrails, those same architecture principles, and you can be nimble and move around.
Sean, I feel like you've been doing exactly that now for months.
I've been trying. How well is a question, but yeah, that's exactly what I think we need to be doing, because most of us come into this space already, or we hope, with good system thinking and good understanding of architecture practices that have worked well, and we don't need to throw that all out just because now we can ask a simple question and spend a bunch of tokens to have something else do our work for us. So I really feel like one of the things I liked in the post actually was how execution stays reproducible. Like that phrase kind of stood out to me. And I feel like that's one of the things I've really loved so far in my experiments of getting to that place where you do pull inference out and you just have good architectural patterns that are reproducible, and it's just code and it just works like you expect every time.
Yeah. Right? Sick. Okay. OpenAI released Codex Security for automatically finding, validating, and fixing security vulnerabilities. I think this one's interesting because the storyline that's been going around about frontier models finding security vulnerabilities, jailbreak escapes, sort of layer upon layer, OpenAI had the storyline of compromising Hugging Face, right? And I think it's interesting to think about how does that market evolve into something where we're building agent harnesses whose job is specifically to sort of find and validate and fix security vulnerabilities? Do we think that this is going to lead to like a broader category of specialist AI tooling specifically around security that we're trying to tune? Or do we think it's just whatever, it's an easy way to like get a security dollar in the door? Paul, what do you think?
Me, I think it's the second one. I mean, there's no coincidence that last week there was a security incident where they jailbreak and like breached a system, and then this week they launch a security product.
Oh, we're going full conspiracy theory.
Yeah, absolutely. I love a bit
marketing
of
stunt,
right? But like at the same time, like there are going to be specialized models that are well trained for this type of thing. Like I already know people working in this space within those companies, but I don't know if like there'll be specialist tools, because if you have to bring in another tool into the tool chain, it's just going to feel painful.
If you know this, but they hacked one machine autonomously, but Anthropic, they hacked 3. So they're 3 times better, by the way.
Well, and also today, the Tailscale folks wrote a blog post about how Tailscale was involved in that vulnerability because after it had breached Hugging Face and it found the security vault, it found the Tailscale token, which then it spawned a bunch of sub-agents and connected them to the tailnet, which,
so smart.
Super fun.
So smart.
And also, just in case anybody's wondering, it's not like this happened accidentally. Like OpenAI told the thing to do whatever it had to do in order to solve this problem, and it could go and do whatever it wanted, and it did. It's not like someone didn't prompt it to do this craziness. You know what I mean? Like,
my favorite thing about that is nothing novel was invented.
No.
This is just an agent using every tool at its disposal. And so really it's just as much a hardening story as it
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
novel use of technology story, right? Like,
I feel like when your intent is 10,000 miles wide, don't be surprised that it just goes off and finds the right path through that forest to do something interesting. Like that's
Totally.
just kind of how it works.
All right, speaking of paths through the forest, Kimi K3 is up on Hugging Face. It has frontier intelligence. That's caused a whole bunch of drama about, how did Moonshot actually get a model that is that effective? Similar sort of co-joined story. Dario, CEO of Anthropic, posted a blog post talking about their position on open weight models, basically trying to say, well, we like open weight models. We see why that's useful. The real problem is distillation attacks against American ingenuity. And that like the fact that, that these Chinese models are running sophisticated distillation attacks in order to catch up to frontier intelligence is a threat to like American hegemony and sovereignty. How are we feeling about Dario's position on open weight models and Kimi K3 being up there with frontier intelligence? You want to take it, Keeb?
Yeah. I mean, what's amazing is how do these models get as good as they are? It's through distillation. Like that's literally how it happens. And I think
they distilled all the world's knowledge in order to get us.
Yeah, and then they go and they
Yes.
do post training, which is a distillation of the model targeted to a specific task, right? So like that's why they're so good at coding. And what I think is that ultimately, what this proves is that no one model is going to rule them all at the end of the day. Really, it is attention, as they say at the end of the day. So like the fact that someone can build a cheaper model based on some distilled input means that open source is here to stay forever, basically. Like you're never going to be able to block this. Pandora's box been opened. And so the question is just like, how do you maximally exploit that for everyone's benefit? Across the whole show.
Do we have no concerns at all about like national security, any of those sorts of things? Are we like, not everyone on this call is American, so like,
hey, take my data. Like, do what you need to. Like, I have nothing sensitive in my system. I don't mind. Like, just keep my subscription at $200 a month, and you can have it.
Yeah, thank you, government basilisk. Okay, in a similar vein, Tobi Knaup. I hope I said his name right. If I didn't, I've met Toby before, so if I said it wrong, Toby, I'm sorry. He was the co-founder of Mesosphere. And he had a post this week saying that open weight AI is having its Kubernetes moment, that sort of with that launch of open weight models with frontier intelligence, that this is the time where the whole industry shifts toward no longer focusing in on sort of best of breed, vertical houses like OpenAI and Anthropic. And instead, we're all going to shift to building, the open platform collaboratively together. I kind of felt like this was a reach in terms of both what kind of collaboration we're talking about here and the sort of what happened with Kubernetes in the scheduler space. Like I, as much as anyone, love to find examples of things that have happened in the past and sort of replay them into it. But I have trouble seeing how what's going to happen is, Moonshot launches Kimi K3. And then what we all decide to do is turn Kimi into Kubernetes. Like that's such a huge leap to me. Sean, what do you think?
I would agree. I mean, I'm actually really excited for the open weight models direction as well, even though I don't think we're there yet. The idea of getting to self-hosting something like Kimi K3, whatever the future generation of it is, if it's K4 or something else, like sounds really great. I don't think it's a Kubernetes moment either. I think the foundational basics of Kubernetes were so much more generic and in the open at the time for me that it made it easier for other things to come along and imitate it. And then it sort of was not as large of a leap for operations from what we were used to doing, to go from, I have this EC2 instance that I can spin up so fast, I need to orchestrate around it. And I have this Docker container that I need to orchestrate around it and then automate. And then, okay, these platforms kind of do this thing for me. And the leap to what the frontier models are actually doing feels so much different for me than that right now, that I don't think just having an open weight model out there like K3 means now we're just generalized to this abstraction that's consistent everywhere.
Totally.
I think if this brings the same complexity to running models as it does to running software in Kubernetes, I think it's like it's going to be pain. Like, I mean, oh my God, like, you know what I mean? And I don't wish that on anyone. Like,
yeah,
don't get me wrong. Like, I understand that the fact that a lot of these larger companies, it's going to give way and people are going to start like looking to use their own compute to do it. But if you can't do it in a way where it's actually scalable, scalable and maintainable, then it's just like, is it even worth it? Like, really, call me in 6 months when I can have the hardware to run a model locally and still get the same results as I do right now.
Yeah. And like, have you looked at all of what it takes to like deploy Kimi K3, for example, on SageMaker with HyperPod and IndyKS? And it's just like this complexity death spiral right now.
You know what you could do? You should just create like a Kubernetes manifest and just deploy it and it'll work, right?
Yeah.
Helm chart.
I think it's the wrong layer. The AI will have its Kubernetes moment when, everyone tries to politicize a harness that is opened by everyone, I think that's going to be...
AI already had its Kubernetes moment. I think OpenAI and Anthropic are literally the Kubernetes moment. It turns out that API is basically identical,
But the AI Foundation will solve it for us, right? That's their movement.
Yeah, you got it.
It's a spicy podcast.
They're going to create a harness on top, right? So
of course they will. Okay, let's talk about, this one's a little self-serving, but Keith Townsend, I was on his podcast last week. He's the CTO advisor. For people who don't know, he's one of the longest sort of independent enterprise architects, CTOs, kind of advisor to many large enterprises in that game. He wrote a good blog post today about deterministic AI being an architecture problem, not a model problem. And, certainly for me, this feels really true, where I think the beginnings of this journey for everybody, me included, was that you were going to see the frontier models continue to improve. And because they were improving, they were just going to get so good that that you wouldn't have to think about asking them to use deterministic systems or to build a system around them, that the models would just sort of do it. And I kind of wound up referring to that as the idea of like the God model, where you can just throw whatever you want at the God model and the God model will sort it all out. And I think what we've seen is that there's this emerging architecture of trying to think through which pieces of the system need to do what, and how do I build the most effective and efficient machine in order to get the outcomes that I'm looking for. And that's an architecture challenge, right? It's just like it has always been a software architecture challenge, right? When we think about, this is the problem I want to solve, we think about what the architecture would be that would help us solve it, so we can scale the way we need to, so we're secure the way we want to be, so that we can deploy it the way we want to, so we can manage it over time. I think those same questions sort of come into AI. Sean, do you have thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I agree. You're not going to get determinism out of a randomized system, and the frontier models are probabilistic and just searching for the best thing, right? You're never going to get consistency out of that, and trying to do that is just such a losing battle. If you think of it as a God model, for those who believe in that direction, like it's still beneficial to be specific with your prayers, and
totally. Absolutely.
So you're going to get better results. You're going to have your face strengthen. You're going to go a certain direction, like whatever that is for you, right?
Yes.
I think that's the thing, that it isn't a model problem where eventually these things just get so good they're going to suddenly behave consistently.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's right. Okay, our last story for this week is Mitchell Hashimoto started a new company. Mitchell, of course, of Terraform fame, one of the greatest of all time in the starting infrastructure companies and writing infrastructure code automation game. Back at it again. His company is now called Superlogical, and Superlogical is trying to build a multiplexer for all work. He got together he stole the design team from Poolside. I'm sure Jason Warner is miffed about that somewhere, but they were great designers. Poolside's designers were. And so when he talks about a multiplexer for all work, I think it's an interesting idea, because one of the things he did was hopped on a video on X where he sort of explained why existing terminal multiplexers weren't quite enough. And he talks about sort of the double duty that they play, where every time you go through a multiplexer, they have to process the entire terminal. Then your terminal gets a chance to do something with it. And that inefficiency actually causes a bunch of problems in how we think about what we can do and how we can operate, and sort of how you could rethink how terminals could work at all. And I think they have a bigger vision for how they're going to then expand beyond terminal multiplexing to thinking about all of the different streams of work that come in, thinking of that like a terminal, which then gets you sort of this multiplexer vision of the world. So, of course, I'm stoked to see Mitchell back in the game. I think Mitchell's a good dude and has obviously done great work over the years. Paul worked at Terraform, so you owe a little something to Mitchell at some point. So how do we all feel about Superlogical? You want to go, Nick?
Yeah, man. Listen, I feel like I'm right in the target demographic for something like this, as someone with 70 Alacrity instances open right now. Literally, anyone who's seen my desktop knows it's a fucking mess. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think in this era of, Paul, this one is going to be I think right in your wheelhouse, right? In this era where you can build literally the exact harness that you want, in the way that you work. it's going to be interesting to see how those two worlds coincide. You can build the tool that you want bespoke for you. And so I don't know how someone else's opinion on how you should do the work, matters in this age. Maybe it does. We'll find out.
I built my own tool, like specifically what Nick's saying here. And and it's not because I'm brilliant at doing stuff like that. I literally opened an agent and I said, hey, I work exactly this way with Claude. I use like Claude work trees everywhere. I want keyboard shortcuts. iTerm is a little like too much. There's like not enough like very specific features that I want. And I just like lent in and like iterated to the fact that, it saves like the sessions. It uses, it uses Tmux server in the background. I can close it. I can reopen it. There is a bunch of tools that have spawned in the last couple of months where people are putting their own flavor of this. So like, it's definitely an ecosystem that's wide open. Like it's definitely something that people are really like want to get something in, especially as, we're kind of heading towards the death of the IDE, and as,
sure.
And I think that's really like there's a space that's like kind of wide open. So, he's like Mitchell's smart, fucking smart. He like, look at how he started the projects, right? He started Vagrant, started Terraform, started Packer, and then look at what those projects became. Look at what HashiCorp became. So, he definitely has great ideas, and there will be a lot of eyes on it just because of the fact that he's had such a track record of building stuff like this.
Yeah, and let's just say it. Mitchell has taste that people like.
Yep.
Like I sometimes disagree with Mitchell's taste. Like it's actually not everything he builds is to my particular taste. But boy, there's a lot of people where his taste is theirs. Like
I
it's just
still know
aligned.
people using Vagrant today, like in 2026. You know what I mean? Too. And like he built that like so early on.
Yeah.
And it grew and grew and grew, and it's still around all these years later just because some people just absolutely love it. So yeah, he has a track record in it.
Yeah. I would agree on his taste. Like I remember having a conversation with him actually at the very first Chef community conference about Vagrant stuff. And it was just like, yep, he's on the same wavelength that people love right now. It's funny you would mention taste because I think of the like, there's that like Rick Rubin gif of him, like people or video of short of him being paid for his taste. He knows nothing about music.
Yeah.
And in this case, you have somebody with taste and somebody who is actually an engineer and knows like what engineers kind of want. So it's going to be interesting to a lot of people. But I also feel like I'm more, even though I don't work the same as Paul or Nick, those Alacrity windows are crazy. And I am not exactly a GUI guy. I live in Tmux, but I could just build the thing I want now. So I don't know. It's going to have to be really compelling for me to be interested in it.
Yeah, I think if there's a thing I'm looking at with skepticism, it is that. It's just in a world where we can build the software exactly the way we want to. What does that mean for how we think about consuming software, think about our own workflows? I don't know the answer to that, but I think it's one of the more interesting questions of this era. Okay, Sean, that's the end of the news. So now it's time to ask you 5 questions. Are you ready? Okay. So of the stories we just covered, which one will you be thinking about later today?
I'm going to be thinking about open weight models, probably the most.
Cool. Which one is noise? Which one are you like, meh?
You can say it. It's okay. Like
the rest. No, I'll say, okay, I agreed already 100% with what Paul said. So it's kind of like, yeah, that one's off my table right away.
Which one?
I didn't pay him. I didn't. Like,
no, it's true. Practices the half architecture shouldn't practice have
you think that one's noise?
No, I think it's not noise. It's just I'm not thinking about it anymore.
Okay, that makes sense.
So
what's a common belief in the industry that you think is wrong?
That tokens are expensive.
Yes.
Oh, you've gone for it there. You are going to have people at your door.
Let's go.
Oh my God.
What's the one thing you wish you could teach everyone in the world?
System thinking.
Okay.
I was going to say swamp, but...
Well, I'm not the advertiser.
What's the best and the worst moment you've had working with AI agents?
The best? Well, maybe the best and the worst right now was when I took out the telemetry for you guys. That was really fun recently.
Yeah. That was super
Great
fun.
blog post, by the way. I loved that.
It was totally accidental. I wasn't clear about my intent or what I wanted it to do, and it just went crazy. And then Nick is like, "Hey, are you doing something insane?" I was like, "Oh yeah." But then at the end, it was
aware. He was throwing 600 requests a second at our telemetry server, and we had no idea it was coming.
Yeah.
It was fun. So, but
we were built for that scale, man. And I said more, and that's what we need. So thank you again.
It uncovered a bug in our architecture. And now you can go way past that and we don't have to think about it, which is good for everybody. Okay. Well, that's all the news that's fit for infrastructure this week. If you want to dive deeper into any of the things we talked about, you can find all the links and the summaries over at swamp-club.com/podcast. Sign up to get it delivered straight to your inbox every Monday morning. If you're trying to figure out how to manage production infrastructure and applications or to scale your use of AI within your organization, Swamp is here to help. Visit us at swamp-club.com to get started using AI agents safely and effectively by building repeatable systems you can trust and verify. I'm Adam Jacob. Paul.
Stack.
I'm Nick.
And I'm Sean.
Sean, as our special guest, you get to take us out. So
All right.
say goodbye and plug anything
Thank
you
you
want.
all. Happy swamping.
All right. We'll see you next Monday. Thanks.